All right, hello everyone, it's Raleigh, and I'm back with a super interesting, super fun video, at least in my opinion. So Secrets of the Obscure just finished up, and we did get some really interesting hints as to where we're gonna go next. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of speculation. I have a feeling that with the blog post that's coming up, where ArenaNet kind of is going to talk about what they have learned from the expansion and so on. I think they're probably going to do. I have a feeling that they might do like a double release of like that blog post, and then they might give us another blog post about where we're going next or something, or at least give us like a hint or some. I'm not sure if they're gonna do like a full-on reveal. But there's a specific reason. We're gonna get into that as we like kind of talk about it. So I want to give you guys my thoughts on what I'm kind of theorizing based on the very limited information that we have, just so that I can it's kind of sort my thoughts a little bit and kind of just go, okay, this is what I'm thinking about right now, and then kind of set a little bit of the expectations that I have for specifically the location. I mean, I'm not the kind of guy that talks about the mechanics and the features and the things that I want to see changed, but I'm more about like, where in the world are we going to go? How is this going to affect the world building, the lore, the characters, the story? Like, where, how is the world progressing? Like, those types of things. And I think we have we have some interesting stuff to kind of talk about. There's some really cool stuff. I think for those of you that are kind of new, that don't really know about my channel, so this is kind of what I do. I talk about the lore, I talk about these types of things. And I think there's some stuff that some of you guys will not know about. So it's also kind of like I want to spread the knowledge of what we know about these things that are going to be potentially appearing in the expansion. Obviously, I will tell you guys, this is not structured, okay? I kind of have some notes, I have some stuff right in front of me, my monitor. I have some things, some websites. We're gonna look at those together, and then by the end of it, I think I want to do kind of like what can I see, what could I see in this next expansion coming, kind of thing, like location-wise specifically, and maybe like characters and story and stuff like that. So and there's some really cool stuff at the end too later with some pictures that I want to show you guys that I over the last couple weeks I've kind of sat down and took care of that. But so before we get into that, I do want to talk a little bit about Secrets of the Obscure. I did say many times that I would do like a final review of Secrets of the Obscure, and I did just put out a post on the community page on my channel. Was it yesterday or a couple days ago? I'm not sure, but I kind of had to take a step back and say, well, it's unfortunate, but I'm not going to do this video because the whole Nios release was pretty disappointing, specifically even when we're talking about lore, when we're talking about the world building, when we're talking about those things, right? Like it started off really strong with all these cool characters coming back, and we're talking about like the elder races and like all these things, and it just ended up being very disappointing in Nios. And I thought about it because I was trying to do like a pretty simple, like, what did I like, what did I dislike about the expansion, and I just had like a giant list of things that I disliked and a really small list of things that I liked. And I was like, well, I don't want to sit here and like poop on the game that I really enjoy, that I'm making videos about, that because I feel like it gives a wrong impression about that. I just, oh my god, I hate ArenaNet and I hate the things that they do. I don't. I really don't. I enjoy the game and I enjoy the franchise, and I'd rather talk about some more exciting things. Kind of, I hate to, I think ArenaNet sometimes does that where they sweep things under the rug and they kind of just move on with their lives. I don't have any control over the things that are going on in games, so I can do that. You know what you say? You see what I'm saying? Like I can just say, okay, well, this happened, and we're gonna leave that, and then we're gonna go to something like more exciting now, right? So, and I think that's what I'm kind of trying to do here is kind of look to some more interesting things, kind of look towards the future, look towards the things that we can together as a community, kind of like that maybe hopefully just being positive and optimistic about the things that we can see, and just kind of, you know, move on with our lives. So I have given my thoughts on Secrets of the Obscure on a lot of my streams. I have talked about what I disliked, what I liked in the last stream as we did the Midnight King playthrough. That is up on the life tab if you guys want to see that. I kind of gave you guys my thoughts on a lot of those things. And I did have some discussion on Reddit as well, to the point where I feel like it was interesting because I felt like maybe I was bringing something new to the table when I joined the discussion, and it wasn't like just bashing, but it was just kind of like voicing our like disdain for the things that were happening. And we as the community on Reddit, a lot of people just were kind of, it was the same thing over and over again. A lot of people were like, yep, I agree with this, yep, I agree with this, yep, this is this. And I felt like I didn't have anything really new to add. So I was like, you know what, it's fine. I don't think I need to sit here and just kind of, you know, beat a dead horse, because that's what it feels like I'm doing. Like I just, you know, so I kind of want to move on. So I just wanted to start off this video by kind of talking about that a little bit, but we're going to talk about some interesting things, some better things, some nicer things. And yeah, so at the end of Secrets of the Obscure, the Midnight King, the very last instance, where we fight Eparch, not the very last instance, because there's another one after that, but the very last instance, and I pointed it out, and this is going to be spoilers for those of you that have not played the very last instance, I will say that. So there's going to be a lot of spoilers for those of you that haven't played the story. So if you're one of those people that wants to enjoy the story, you can either watch me play through it over on the live tab, or you can play through it yourself. But I will say that I will not have any spoiler filters in the things that I'm going to say. It's all, like, I'm going to talk about all the things. So in that last battle, in the throne room, we do see the Eye of Janthir. Now, the Eye of Janthir is a very interesting artifact in the sense that we do not know truly the origin of, like, where it came from, how was it made, like, you know, are the Mersad, like, because it was stated by Livia during season 3 that its true masters are the Mersad, and that it had disappeared because the very last Mersad had been defeated. Lazarus, right? We killed Lazarus at the very end of season 3 before we go to the desert, and the eye kind of just like it disintegrates, kind of like it just kind of like disappears. I have this image of it like kind of just like disintegrating upward. It might just like slowly fade out. I'm not really sure what the animation of it is, but she says that this is the end, blah blah blah, all this stuff. Well, come to find that we see either a different Eye of Janthir or the same Eye of Janthir. If there's only one, we don't know. But that is in Nyos, and it disappears. So the question then is, okay, what is going on, right? Like, why? Obviously, this seems to be a tie-in into what's coming next, because we recently heard, or we recently saw the picture, and I made a video about this. We got a preview picture from ArenaNet that kind of just showed us a landscape, and the original name of that landscape had Delta in it. Now, there's only one Delta on the whole world map, and that is south of Janthir Bay, kind of the northern part of Kryta. So all of these things, we also get, there's another hint that we get as to where we're going next, and that being the Isles of Janthir, is that there is a letter from Anise to Livia talking about how she's kind of asking her to come back to Kryta because there's some stuff they have to discuss or something. It's very vague, it's very just like nondescript, but again, it kind of hints towards, okay, Livia is maybe still going to be part of the story. She might leave the Astral Ward behind for a little bit, right? We know that this kind of happens, that some of these agents, like at some point, you know, Mabon kind of goes to Mabon Market and stuff, like that is named after him, and like it's kind of, you know, they kind of the Astral Ward, they aren't locked to the Wizard's Tower, and they're not locked to Omnitas. They can travel around, and they do have different jobs and different things that they do. They infiltrate different things. We know of like the Usuran guy that's like in, I guess he's in the Vigil or something, and we kind of see him in the Wizard's Tower, and we're like, oh hey you, and it's like, oh okay. So they kind of get to move around. So I guess Livia gets to kind of just like leave. Whether or not she's taking Legavo with her is a whole different story. Legavo being the Scepter of Ore, which she was in possession of for a long time, and we know she kind of gave it to Iskarin, but at the same time, she said that she'd be coming to the Wizard's Tower to kind of, like, she's not letting it out of her sight. So it's like, okay, well, Iskarin has the scepter now locked away in his, like, you know, reliquary where all his, like, items are or whatever. Is she taking it with her, or is she leaving it there? Like, what's going on there, you know? But so we kind of get these hints as to, yes, we're probably going to go to the Isles of Janthir. There is another, so this happened yesterday. There was a post made on Reddit by someone that said, hey, there was a possible leak for the expansion name. So let's look at that. Let's look into that. So I have a bunch of tabs open here, but so this post was made Delta X Hunter 19 hours ago, as of, like, you know, whatever, whenever I opened this page earlier. But so it's interesting because we see that, you know, we click on these links or whatever, and we see this is the trademark page that they did for Seekers of the Obscure, right? We see the name here. It kind of has this like weird thing that you can kind of click on. I don't know, whatever. But they filed a trademark. Sorry. They filed a trademark for Seekers of the Obscure, and this Redditor posted it as comparison, right? So they had it as comparison to kind of show, because this is the actual trademark. So they have trademarked the name Janthir Wilds, okay? So that kind of leads us to believe that, yes, indeed, we are going to the Isles of Janthir. There is a reason the eye was in the very last instance when we fought Epark. What the connection is between the two, we don't really know. I mean, there is overarching, like, there are connections between the Mersat and the Cryptus, but we don't know about Janthir, and I kind of want to go into that a little bit more as we talk about this. So, anyways, so we have the trademark. So we can kind of, I guess from this point, the new expansion is going to be Janthir Wilds, okay? That could be super exciting. There's a lot of really interesting things and a lot of really cool things that can happen with that. Again, I really like that ArenaNet, now that they've kind of left the Dragon story behind, they're tackling not just random lore threads, but like the ones that like people asked about the most. Like the Isles of Janthir was something that a lot of people asked for, or asked about at least. There was even, when you go back to the Guild Wars 1 times, there was at some point the Guild Wars 1 the Guild Wars 1 world map was a lot different, and it kind of changed throughout the different releases that it got. Prophecies had its own kind of map, and then Guild Wars, like, and as they moved on, it kind of changed. And let's actually, you know what, I can probably, this is the whole world map. We're gonna look at that. Okay, well, I'm just trying to go. I wonder if it has a connection to, no, do I even have... So let's do it. We're gonna do it this way instead of like having to search for exactly. So we're gonna look at the world map here. So the world map, list of maps maybe, yeah. So this kind of, as you guys can kind of see, the map has kind of evolved over time. Okay, because as you guys can see, so we kind of have this is the prophecies map, and it looks like there's land up here, right? And it looks like it doesn't quite end here, but in Guild Wars 2 it actually does end, or the land does end, and there's like ocean that happens there, right? And this was kind of, as we went, these are all like the early maps that we have, right? This is the Kryta map that we got during prophecies. You know, this is the Dominion of Winds down there, and we have Lion's Arches like over here and stuff. But as we went further on, this with Eye of the North, because this is where it cut off, right? And it kind of made it look like there's just land to the north. And they kind of like, this is where they cut it off. Well, with Eye of the North, we got all this northern part, right? We went further into the like Shiver Peaks, and we got some of the Blood Legion homelands up there and stuff like that. So, and with that, it actually gave us one island here, one big island, and that was the Isles of Janthir. And there's a reason why it's called the Isles of Janthir. But there's actually another really interesting discrepancy. When you talk about, and I don't know if they have that anywhere here, but there is and I just saw it earlier, I'm not sure, this is the Sol D'Alessio page, but there is a really interesting part where way early on, when you enter Kryta, you're actually on the side of the White Mantle in Guild Wars 1, and they talk about Sol D'Alessio, and they talk about how he went south to the Isle of Janthir. Okay, so there's some interesting discrepancies there, which were fixed, you know, post prophecies, because in prophecies we never see the island, right? We just looked at the map. We never see the island in prophecies. So when they say the Isles of Jin, so, you know, we go to Kryta, and this White Mantle character says, oh, south, the Isle, a singular, Isle of Janthir. So we're like, okay, is it like one of these isles? Is it like, what is it this? You know, we know this is the Fire Island chain, but it's like, you know, we didn't really know where like Or was located. We heard about Or, but we didn't really know, like, you know, this is obviously Or, but it's like, okay, well, there is other islands around here. Like, could one of them be named the Isle of Janthir? Like, we didn't know that. And then that wasn't retcon, but it was like, it was kind of like explained better, and I guess this must have been a typo. Maybe they all along wanted it to be in the north, but they later on changed it, and this is then the Isles of Janthir. Or at this point, it just looks like one island, right? So, and that's the really interesting part, because we really, even in Guild Wars 2, I'm trying to zoom in. So even in Guild Wars 2, it has to load because this map is massive. So even in Guild Wars 2, right, like the world map like ends there, right? It kind of like, this is what the world map looks like when we go in game, right? When you go in game, this is kind of what you see. This is where it kind of ends. You know, I don't think it goes much further than this, because this is where all the like BR Marcha stuff happens. Drizzlewood is here. This is the river that kind of divides Drizzlewood, so Drizzlewood like ends over here or whatever. The Penitent, the Bastion of the Penitent is down here. Like, this is it, right? But in truth, the map is actually much larger. They don't actually show us the entire world map in Guild Wars 2. So we actually have, when you scroll up, there is other islands up here. Do you see this? There's other islands. So these are suspected to be all the, you know, and when you look at this island, you think of like, this is almost like Ember Bay, right? This is almost like the Fire Island chain, of volcanic, like destroyed, kind of, you know, again, when we kind of compare it to what it looks like right here, you know, in Guild Wars 1, I mean, it looks like, you know, you compare it to this, it looks very similar to the Fire Island chain, right? So you think this is this craggy, rocky, whatever. And we also know that because the Isles of Janthir are connected to the Mersat, and we know the Mersat structures are these, they call it jade, but it's like this dark jade, right? It's not the color of like the dragon jade that we see in the Jade Sea and stuff, but it's a darker jade. It's this like black, purple, like obsidian kind of looking, like, you know, rocky, like sharp structures that they have, and it kind of fits with what Janthir, like the Isle of Janthir, looks like on both of these. But we also have like more of like this, Like, there's other isles that look like, this is like almost like a deserty one. This almost looks like it has like maybe a volcano or something, like an inactive volcano, and just like a jungle. This would be like almost like a jungle. And it's very interesting because we know next to nothing about the Isles of Janthir. When we look at Sol D'Alessio, we know that he there's this really interesting, when you kind of look at his like early history and the early history of like the White Mantle specifically and stuff. You know, and this goes into the story of the Bastion of the Penitent, where you kind of learn about Saul's life and stuff like that. And you know, it's very tragic. His whole life is very tragic because he is this like you know, he's just this poor man, and he tries to like he has like a gambling addiction or something, right? And he becomes a robber or something, and he has these debts he has to repay and stuff, and eventually he gets exiled from Lion's Arch or from Krita or whatever, right? And then he like finds the Mersad, and they kind of lift him up and they help him establish the White Mantle and stuff and fight back the Char, only to take him prisoner for like, you know, 250 years, and we find him, and then it's just kind of like that's the end of his life, and it's very sad, you know. It's just like, oh my god, you know. But yeah, so when you actually look at the story, so you know, all these bad things happen to him, and then the local authorities blindfolded him and rode him out 3 full weeks before leaving him to fend for himself in the wilderness. Now we can kind of think of you know, we actually should be looking at the Guild Wars 1 map. So the authorities of Krita, like the throne of Krita, was actually located in Lion's Arch back then. There was actually like a big castle-like thing or whatever, and so the authority, you know, the like Prince Selma's father and stuff, I forgot his name. But he ruled from Lion's Arch. Okay, there was no Divinity's Reach. Divinity's Reach is going to be over here 250 years later. Okay, they pretty much take this whole lake. This part right here is going to be like Lake Doric up here. And then this is the other side that we don't have access to, right? But they kind of build, because this is Shaymore. Okay, so Shaymore is right here in Guild Wars 1, and then they build Divinity's Reach north of it, right? But this is the delta, the only delta that we've ever seen, right? So this is why one of the hints as to why we think that's where we're gonna go. And I keep on trying to go to the left on, as you guys can see, but we don't have anything to the left in Guild Wars 1. Like, we don't know anything about the Horn of Maguma. But anyway, so they rode him out into the wilderness. Okay, and then he returned, like, for 3 weeks, and they left him there, and then he returned to Demetra to fend off, because the Char invasion was happening. They were coming from the north. Okay, the Char were coming from the north, and they were attacking, actually through here. Okay, this is where Demetra, the ancient city of Demetra, and we can kind of well, this is the unexplored map, so that doesn't really help anyone. I wonder if there is a way. I hate how this always happens. Yeah, so this would be the world map explored. That would probably help us more. Because, oop. Sorry, guys. So, again, this is, you can kind of see, this is where the lake was, the big, I think it's called the Giants Basin, and then the little lake right here is the Lesser Giants Basin, okay? And Demetra lies right in between the two of them. So when we look at this map here, so this would be the Giants Basin, and then the Lesser Giants Basin was kind of transformed. I mean, it's kind of like where Gandharan Fields is. It's like all of this water here, kind of with the tsunami that came in with Zaitan's rise. I think there was like a lot of like water that washed onto the land and then was just kind of sucked back out, you know, with the aftermath, and it kind of just, I feel like it left the lakes all kind of crazy and the water everywhere. And so I think right over here would be the Lesser Basin. But what's right in the middle? Well, right here in Guild Wars 2, you can actually go to the city of Demetra. It's now all destroyed, and you can find this grave that they had made for Sol D'Alessio and stuff like that. But that's like right in between, because this is where Lake Doric is, this is where the water would end, and it's right in between the two as the city of Demetra. And that's where Saul went to Demetra with the White Mantle. The Char invasion is happening, and they're fighting, and with the help of the Mersat, they fight back. Okay, and but how does he get to, like, there is this interesting story that I feel like needs to be told about exactly what happened with Saul, because we know that Saul ventured through the wilderness, and eventually, and we can read this in here, dense forest for several days, surviving only on roots and berries. On the fourth day, delirious with hunger, Saul emerged from the trees to see what he thought was a hallucination. A massive city, a city of massive towers with alabaster and golden filigree reaching into the heavens. Walking down, he got a closer look at the denizens, the Mersat, whose graceful form and demeanor impressed him greatly, hungry and exhausted, so they helped him back up. And he found his gods, so he worshipped them as gods, because they're these floaty, very intimidating. I mean, the Mersat with their black wings and stuff, they're very intimidating looking creatures, like we can kind of see it on this picture here. So he thought them to be these gods, and he worships them. But they talk about that he ventured through a dense forest for several days until he found a giant city. Okay, now obviously people have been talking about, well, maybe he ventured into the Muguma jungle. Well, Muguma jungle doesn't have, at the time, so, because someone might say, well, maybe he came across, I don't know, Tarir or something, right? And they could be like, well, maybe he saw Tarir because, golden, towers, spires, massive spires that reach into the sky, and there's talk of like golden filigree. Like that could kind of match a little bit Tarir. But remember, in this timeline, Tarir doesn't exist. Like, Tarir was built between Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2. So in Guild Wars 1, we can explore all of the Muguma jungle, and the Tarir is not there. Like, Tarir would be like, I think it would be like right over here or something is where Tarir is going to be. And there's no Tarir in Guild Wars 1. So that's not what happened. So the idea then is that because we haven't been to the Woodland Cascades at this point in time, that, we've only been in Guild Wars 1, we've only been to the Umbral Grotto, and that's where it ends. And that's only just a tiny little piece of it, right? Of the Woodland Cascades. In the bonus mission, which is up here, you do get to go to Demetra, but it only reaches to like up here. So you don't really go deep into it, right? So somewhere in this forest is a giant city. And it's interesting because it's like a giant city of Mersat. Weird, right? It's just like, okay. And he just, like, they found this in the, because it's weird, because when we look here, we have the Bastion of the Penitent, right? And but that's not at all, it doesn't fit the description. We know the Mersat took it over. It was originally built by the Wizards Court, by the Astral Ward, but it was taken over by the Mersat after they kind of left it or whatever. Like, we don't really know what the circumstances there was, but that's, and we don't know anything else around in this area. But wouldn't it stand to reason that at some point someone would have found this city, right? So what if, and here's kind of like where I go maybe a little crazy with the theory crafting, because it doesn't explicitly say that a city of massive towers is within a forest. Because I feel like maybe a lot of people misunderstand the description. It says that he emerged from the trees, meaning that he had left the forest to find the city, right? You could say that he emerged from the trees, meaning he's out of the forest and now there is a city. You could say that he emerged from the trees because there was a giant city in the middle of the forest, and, there's no trees in the middle of the city, right? But I'd like to think that maybe he emerged out of the forest to come across this city, right? He came out of the forest to see that. So in Guild Wars 2 or in Guild Wars 1, we don't really have a land connection here, right? So, but in Guild Wars 2 we do. So is this like a high tide, low tide kind of thing, because the forest reaches pretty much all the way to here. What if he ventured all the way through the forest and ended up on the Isles of Janthir? Maybe there is a land bridge. Maybe they didn't really like have it properly, like, you know, how we sometimes, when they reveal things on the world map, they show more than there was before, right? Like, things change. I mean, over time, like earthquakes, and we don't know if there's volcanic activity here either, right? We talked about like maybe there's volcano and stuff, and it can kind of change the landscape a little bit, you know, high tide, low tide, like whatever, right? These things change stuff as well, you know, over time things change, right? It's like maybe there's like landslides that keep happening on this side and it kind of fills in some of the water there or something, right? We don't know because the mountain is pretty close by. So, but it stands to reason that perhaps that's what happened. Maybe he walked all the way, or maybe he went even further north. Maybe he went even further north because in Guild Wars 2 we can see where that leads. Where does it lead? Well, it leads all the way around. You can see it. It leads all the way around. And again, there looks like to be another land bridge here. Okay, where it connects to this island, and then a land bridge here that connects to this island. Okay, so maybe the city of Mersat was somewhere around here. So I have a feeling that with this next expansion, kind of what I'm trying to get to with this whole thing is that we're probably not going to see that much of the Woodland Cascades. I think we're going to see the Delta. I think we're going to get a map down here that's going to be north of Divinity's Reach. Okay, and then they're going to probably put us like up here somewhere. We're gonna get a map like on this isle, like of you know, up here, or even up here or something. Who knows, right? Like we're gonna get. I mean, I guess the idea is we're still getting 3 maps, right? So we're gonna get like map 1 down here, and then map 2 here, and then map 3 up here or something. I don't know, right? But it's kind of interesting. I mean, this is the like picture when you kind of like, because it cuts off at the top, but you can kind of see there's multiple islands and they all look very interesting. We just don't know a lot about them. But I'd like to think, I'd like to think that the city, you know, again, if it was on the mainland of Tyria, so close to Divinity's Reach, you really think no one would have seen it? I mean, there could be like, the Mersat have used cloaking magic and stuff like that, but Saul just stumbled upon this city. Okay, they didn't like, it wasn't like maybe they watched him or something, like maybe they knew he was approaching and they revealed his city, but that would be kind of strange because he's just like a random stranger that's walking through the forest. Like, would they just have any person or whatever like that walks through the forest, they kind of like take their chances with it and like unveil their city to see? I think it's more plausible to think that it's not in the Woodland Cascades or in a forest area, but it's outside of a forest area that you go to. So I'm thinking that's probably what it's going to look like. And there's some pictures, I'm probably going to put it up in post. There's some cool pictures that I have that I'm going to show you guys that, and I will say right here that they were made with AI. I went and had AI make some cool pictures for you guys, but kind of, because I always talk about this where I'm not an artist, so I don't know how to, I know how to draw a stick figure and that's where it ends pretty much. So I can make videos and stuff, but like artistically drawing things, I don't have that talent. So someone had suggested to me to use AI, and I thought it was a good idea, you know, because there are some good uses to AI. I know there's a lot of negative when we talk about AI, and I'm not gonna open that, you know, can of worms, but I think for my purposes it's perfect. So I'm gonna let you guys know that these images that I'm gonna post on there, those are indeed AI generated pictures, but they're really cool because there's a lot of different ones that I see on there, and I'm gonna, you know, they're fairly small, they're not big, but you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. So the first part is, right, we have the river delta, but we also know, based on the northern part of Lake Doric, and you know, and I kind of talked about this in the video where you talked about the preview, right? The preview of the next expansion. I talked about how the preview image, is the combination of both of these foliages, right? We see a lot of the trees, the big pine trees from Drizzlewood, but we also see a lot of the like amber colored, harvest colored, like forest that we have in north of Lake Dork. So it's a combination of both of those. So I kind of had AI generate something with like a river, with like golden, whatever, right? There's some images there that you can kind of you know, maybe, so that would be like the riverside that we're maybe gonna see. There's some other images of like just a full-on forest that I kind of had generated. So that's kind of what I would maybe imagine. Like, you know, we have the forest, and you know, again, it's kind of like the golden amber colored trees that we see down here would maybe be like the other part of it, right? And that would be map 1, right? That would be like down here. I mean, I'm drawing like a huge square. I mean, that would be a massive map. You know, when we look, Nios is not on here, but like even Omnitas is a massive map. Like both Skywatch Archipelago, those are huge maps. So I'm drawing like a giant thing here, but it could be anywhere in this region. I feel like we're gonna get a map. I think we're gonna get a map north of Divinity's Reach, and then it's gonna lead into the cool like Janthir, which. And the AI generator actually did a really good job, because I couldn't really, I was like, I can't really, like, I'm gonna put some random descriptive words of what I would imagine the Isles of Janthir to look like, but it actually came out really cool, and I looked at them and I'm like, man, that does look really cool, and I would love to explore areas like that. So you'll see the pictures that I have. I have some with like purple spires, and there's some purple rocks, and you know, it's just kind of, I kind of went with the purple theme because that's what I always imagine when we talk about Janthir and stuff. You know, I feel like there's always this like these islands have like this purple hue to them, I feel like, a little bit, right? More so than like, you know, when you look at the Fire Island chain, they're more like just gray. So they're not volcanic, I feel like, but they're more like there's some kind of magic going on, and they're like magically infused. So I kind of had like that. I feel like maybe they're a little too purpley. They could have been a little bit more red, like a mix of red and purple, but nonetheless, you kind of will see it. And there's also this, one of the big things that we kind of have during Secrets of the Obscure, and do I have it pulled up? All right, so in Secrets of the Obscure, way early on, we're introduced to Frode, who is the warden of the Astral Ward. He's the leader of the Astral Ward, so he's pretty much, he is, you know, whereas Scarn is the leader of the Wizard's Court, who are the leaders of the Astral Ward, right? Frode is the leader of all of the Astral Ward, kind of like right underneath the wizards. I feel like that's kind of how it works. But we have this interesting thing, and I pointed this out, and I think this is a good time to kind of talk about it. We have the vow of the Warden that we see. Okay, you'll see it right over here on the side. And the vow of the Warden is really interesting in the sense that, and I don't know if anyone can pick it out. There's something really interesting. Not just the Golden Lake, which is like, I feel like the obvious, you know, you're like, oh, the Golden Lake, because the Golden Lake does describe the Isles of Janthir, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But there's one thing that's very interesting, and I've kind of talked about this, I feel like, a little bit when I did the initial like Secrets of the Obscure like playthroughs and stuff like that. So let's read through it, and I'm giving you guys kind of a little bit of time to maybe just kind of think about it, and maybe just like do a little game out of it, where it's like you at home, the viewers, just think about the one discrepancy, or not discrepancy, but the one thing that stands out to me. Okay, so it says, this is the vow of the Warden. It says, they will protect the veil between Tyria and the mists. They will guide the Astral Ward toward brilliance. They will be modest, and they will drink a chalice of water from the Golden Lake. They will be kind and powerful. They, by the will of Iskarn, will better this world. So the one thing that stood out to me immediately when I read this is that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 different things that the Warden is supposed to be doing. Okay? Out of those 6, 5 of them are fairly conceptual. Meaning that they're more just concepts, they're ideas, okay? They will protect the veil between Tyria and the Mist. That is not an outright action that you do. It's not like they fight against every enemy that comes from the mist, right? That would more be like that's a direct action. But they protect the veil. Okay, that's kind of like an idea, a concept. Like there's many ways that you can defend this veil between Tyria and the mist. There's different things that they can do to preserve that barrier, that balance of not having anything invade Tyria from the mist, right? Then we have they will guide the astral ward toward brilliance. So there's again, it's more of a concept because you can guide people in many different ways, right? Frode likes to spearhead things, right? He's the guy that doesn't sit back and just like gives orders and like tells people what to do. No, he goes right into the fray of things because he's a Norn, right? That's kind of in his blood. He is still Norn, and you know what is it they do? Well, they go in and they fight, right? And they that's even though he is a Norn, who Norn by nature were supposed to be these lone fighters. They don't fight in big groups. They don't have armies and stuff like that. But he is still, you know, beside being a Norn, more so he's the warden of the Astral Ward. So that's what he does, is he guides them in many different ways by sharing wisdom with them, right? There's one part in the meta event where Frode actually shares with Arena, with his daughter, kind of like, because she's just like, you know, kind of going like gung-ho or whatever. And I think at some point he actually has like some words of wisdom for her where he's just like, oh, well, you know, you've improved in this way and there's some stuff that you can still do. So that is how he guides them. Again, it's an idea, right? They will be modest. Okay, that's super just, okay, that's just a concept, okay? Just being modest, you're like, okay, that's, again, an idea, that's like something that you can do, that's not actively something that you do. They will be kind and powerful. Okay, again, that's kind of a concept. There's many ways that you can be kind to someone. There's many ways that you can be powerful. Or not even kind to someone. Maybe be kind to, like, the world, to Tyria, right? To, like, the ideas, to yourself, right? You can be kind to yourself. You can be powerful in many different ways. Obviously, as a Norn, that means you go in and you know, the harder you can swing your axe, the better, right? But there's other ways. You can be a powerful magician. You can be a powerful like a powerful person with words, like a politician, you know, someone that can sway people by just talking to them. That makes them powerful. You can have a lot of money. That gives you a lot of power, right? Even in the world of Tyria, that gives you a lot of power. And by the will of Isgarin, they will better this world. So, you know, again, that's a concept. There's many ways that you can do this, there's many actions that go into this concept. You can better this world by getting rid of the evil, or creating beautiful things, or making, you know, or guiding other people to make beautiful things, or help you defend, or whatever, right? Guiding the Astral Ward to do nice things in the world. But what is the one thing that is an actual action, and that does not sound like it would be a concept, is drink a chalice of water from the Golden Lake. So that's really strange, right? That is the one thing that really stood out. First of all, it's the one sentence that actually has two things in it, right? So there's the concept, and then they have the action of whether these two are connected. Like, does drinking a chalice of water have anything to do with being modest? We don't know, but it's the one that's not broken up. It doesn't have its own line, right? You would look at this and you would think, well, you would have one line for this, one line for this, one line for this. Then you would start a new line saying they will drink a chalice of water from the Golden Lake. They will be kind of powerful, blah, 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 so on. But they combine it with these two. And it kind of makes this stand out to me in like a really interesting way. To me, it sounds like all the other ones are ideas. That's why they all have, you know, concepts, whatever, right? And they have their own line. But this is like an action. And it's something that, like, you know, they actually go to the lake and they take a chalice and they dip it into the Golden Lake, whatever that means. Is it golden water, or is it golden because we could have, like, if you guys remember in Ore, for example, and I have a map up, so I can actually show you guys. In Ore, when you go to Malkor's Leap, right, and you go north, right on this little peninsula, there's the little the golden orb that is kind of hovering above there, and we don't really know what that's about. We haven't really heard. A lot of people early on, or not early on, but as we went into like season 3, season 4, you know, whatever, right, a lot of people were like, ooh, this might be like the heart of an elder dragon or something, right? This might be like the essence like an elder dragon or something like that, right? There was a lot of theories about that, but we never got the answer as to what that is. So what would happen if you were to take this and place this above a lake, right? This golden glowing orb. Well, it would create a golden shine across this lake. So is it that they have like this magical, like there's a lake somewhere on the isle, like let's say over here is a lake, right? And you have a giant golden orb that glows above it, and that's what makes that lake always look golden. Like it's actually a water lake, but it's not actual golden, you know, whatever. It's not like sap or honey or whatever, right? Or it could be something that is a golden liquid of some sort, right? But what makes that special? The question is, what makes the Golden Lake so interesting, right? We click on Golden Lake and it actually brings us to the Isles of Janthir. And we can kind of read a little bit about it. I mean, you guys can look at it yourself. This is just a wiki page. I'm not going to read the whole wiki page to you guys because that's kind of silly, I think. But the interesting part about it is that the Mersad. So I kind of made this theory now where I talked about, well, maybe the city of Mersad was on the Isles of Janthir. But we do know that there are people that are the enigmatic inhabitants of the Isles of Janthir. There are people of Janthir. There is some kind of culture or some kind of race of people or some kind of something that isn't necessarily Mersad. I mean, I don't think the two are mutually exclusive, so they could still perhaps be Mersad, but there are like some kind of culture or people, group of people or whatever. Those are the inhabitants. Those are the Janthirians or whatever, right? They're whatever you want to call them. The Janthirites. I don't know, but those people, right? They live on this island. Because we go back and the Shining Blade Secrets, this is during season 3, I want to say. Exemplar Mehid, we actually see him multiple times throughout the story, but there's a part right here. And now that we kind of, as we go into the whole idea of Janthir and how the Mersad are maybe connected, and maybe how the cryptas are connected, and what the story is, what's been happening up there and stuff like that. And like I said, this is not a real structure video. I'm kind of going all over the place because I didn't really know how to structure it for you guys. I tried to take some notes and I was just like, I have no idea how to do this. So this is all kind of all over the place. So you have to excuse me a little bit. But nonetheless, so our character, the commander, goes, what do you know about the Eye of Janthir? Right? Because at this point we had kind of seen the Eye of Janthir, and we hadn't seen it, but we knew from Karita, who is Livia, that we are like she's chasing it or whatever, and we have to help her. So we ask him, what do you know about the Eye of Janthir? Mehid says, all I know is what is in the history books. It was a tool of the Mersat and White Mantle. Okay, we know this. We have seen this numerous times. This has been a thing that's been talked about many a times. We've seen it in action in Guild Wars 1, in Guild Wars 2, whatever, nothing new. But associated with the people of Janthir. Janthirians, okay? Is it Janthirites or I think Janthirians would sound better if we called them that. Anyways, and we know that it could see a person's gifts, right? True sight. So it serves the White Mantle and the Mersad. Yes, it's hundreds of years old, but was recently rediscovered in Bloodstone Fen and has been seeking its masters ever since. Okay, so again, we're talking about the people of Janthir. Mehid knows about Mersat. Okay, he is literally a Shining Blade, who are the sworn enemies in Guild Wars 1, the sworn enemies of the White Mantle, and in conjunction the Mersat, right? Like that's clear. So what is going on there? Like what who are these people? We've never seen them. We've never heard of them. We don't know what race they are. We do not know if they are Mersat, how they are associated with the Mersat. Are they friendly with the Mersat? That the Mersat, perhaps, here's another theory. What if Saul, like I said, he came across this island, walked out of the forest, and he came across this southern island and found the city of Mersat. Okay, let's just say that. But this is maybe the city that the Mersat had among the people of Janthir. Maybe the Janthirians said, the Mersad wanted, like, they had some kind of like allied thing going on, because we know that the Mersad came from the they came from Nios, right? We know that that's where they came from originally. Whether or not that's like their home plane or whatever, right? Their realm or whatever. But they came from there, right? Maban states this. We there's collections about it, whatever. Even though we don't see a lot of influences, because this is at least like probably, you know, I mean, the Mersat have been on Tyria since at least the last Elder Dragon Rising, which is 10,000 years ago, right? That's a long, 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 long time ago. That, I mean, that's just like as ancient as we know it. So at some point in time, they were banished from Nios and came to Tyria, right? We don't know when this happened. We don't see any more influences of the Mersat anywhere in Nios at all. There's an ancient scroll that talked a little bit about this. I potentially, so this is something that you have to find doing the Astroward Arsenal for the weapon proficiencies and stuff. But this is like a delicate scroll, so it's kind of talk about this as we talk about like Mersat being a Nios and stuff like that. Judging by the fragile nature of the parchment, the scroll must be ancient in origin. The language is unknown and only legible via the Heart of the Obscure. Again, we don't know much about the Heart of the Obscure. It was made by Waiting Sorrow, who is a Coden. But she was one of the wizards, and she had left the wizard's court at some point, because I think she had some. They kind of hint at that she was just trying to figure out her past or her own life or something, because I think she was very disturbed by the not just the attack during the lonely tower fractal and stuff. I guess there's something that happened there. I haven't played the instance, I've only read about some stuff, but apparently she seems to be kind of affected by what's going on. She seemed Dagda had to go check on her, is one of the dialogue things that happened there. But she also seemed to have there's different notes and letters between people during Secrets of the Obscure that you can find, where they talk about how she talks about how she has these glimpses of her past and stuff, and she kind of wants to find out about her past, right? She did the Ascension, and it took away all her memories, and that's kind of eating away at her, because she really wants to find out, I'm guessing, possibly, like, who she was and stuff. So she created the Heart of the Obscure before leaving. And we don't really fully understand the powers of the Heart of the Obscure. We don't really know what it means to carry the Heart of the Obscure, what its true purpose was. But we were able to close rifts with it, and there's a couple of other things we have been able to do. One of which is translate, or kind of the language is unknown and only legible via the Heart of the Obscure. So it's making the language legible. And we've talked about, again, I've recently made a video, and you guys can check on the channel, about languages in Tyria. There's a lot of mysterious languages in Tyria. There's a lot of different things that are still kind of out in the lore, where we don't know what certain runes mean. We don't know what certain languages are, like what these people spoke, what those people spoke. Like, there's different quests and hints and stuff at different languages and areas of the world, and it's very interesting. So you guys can kind of watch that video as well. But anyways, so though you do recognize symbols associated with Janthir, okay? So again, we don't know much about Janthir, you know, symbols associated with Janthir. We know that the Bloodstone has like these symbols on it, right? And we know that the Seers like made the Bloodstone. But it's, you know, it's kind of strange that you know, the eye and stuff like that. I mean, it's like we see it on all the Mersat structures, but it's like, again, so that means that they're closely connected to Janthir, right? If they have the eye of Janthir, they use it, and they perhaps use the language of the Janthirians, or that culture of people or whatever, right? It's, again, it's never like, they always put it as two separate ones. Whenever the people of Janthir come up, it's always like, they're not Mersat. They're never explicitly said that, oh, these are Mersat. They're the people of Janthir. Two different things. So, very interesting. The magic of this world, so this is what the scroll says. The magic of this world courses with the power of our people, and this power can be turned against those who would defy us. When we march to war, the land comes with us, our home forever in our arsenal. Woe to those who would block our path, for they will face not just sword and claw, but the very essence of Nyos itself. Where we go, they will kneel, as it must be. So it's interesting because one would think with sword and claw, that's maybe a little bit more like Cryptus, you know, but this is very ancient. This is super, super ancient. This is like super old. This is like way, okay, old. So this seems to talk about how the Mersat in Nyos, they moved with Nyos, or Nyos moved with them. And Nyos itself was kind of like empowering them or something. It's very cryptic the way that it's written, because it's woe to those who would block our path, for they will face not just sword and claw, but the very essence of Nyos. What does it mean when they talk about the very essence of Nyos itself, right? Has Eparch not ever figured out exactly what the essence of Nyos really is? Is there some kind of like deep secret still to Nyos that we don't really fully understand? Like, is Nyos a magical repertoire that the Mersat created, or the people of Janthir, or whoever created, as like a pocket dimension of energy, of power? And at some point they exhausted it, and the Cryptus, or maybe the Cryptus moved in because of the power, and then after 10,000 plus years have exhausted it, because the people that used to maintain it, the Mersat or the people of Janthir or whoever, they are not maintaining this magical realm anymore, and the realm of dreams is just only so because of like only in name it's so, right? It's not this magical realm. It's now been, after 10,000 years, just been transformed into a demon realm. We do not know the history of Nyos. We don't know what happened between the Mersat and the Cryptus. We do know there's a couple connections when we look at the Penitent of the Bastion of the Penitent, right, where Deimos was hiding out at, right, or captured or whatever. He was kind of trapped there, probably by the Astral Ward, by the Wizard's Court, by Asgar and whoever, right? But we do know, again, there's like these weird connections, these overarching connections between the Mersat, the Cryptus, the Astral Ward, the Seers, like kind of like a lot of these ancient races, Waiting Sorrow being a Coden, it's kind of like, well, what does she know that she was able to create the Heart of the Obscure that interacts with not just objects of Janthir, but objects from Nyos / Cryptus, right? Which is not originally Cryptus. That was like, Nyos was originally Mersat. So there's a lot of like weird mysteries, and that's why I kind of had a hard time coming up with like a script or like notes, because it's kind of all over the place. We have all these little hints everywhere, but we don't know how they all kind of connect. It's like that image of the guy from the show where it's just like, he's like crazy, and he's just like, he's like, ah, and it's like the meme that they have, right? And it has all these like, he has connected all these things to each other or whatever, and it's just like, it's become a meme over the years, and and he's just like, ah, and it's like, yeah, that's how I feel about some of these things concerning the Mersat and the people of Janthir and stuff like that. So it's very interesting that we, there's also the question of, shortly before the death of Suwan, the Wizard's Court moved the levitating Wizard's Tower from Janthir to Horn of Maguma. That seems very strange to me, because the tower, up until recently, wasn't sitting anywhere close to Janthir. Okay, so I think, this seems kind of like incorrect. Hold on. I'll take whatever's but things. I feel completely useless in battle. Let's read through some of this. Oop. It's just squeezed my hand. On runic magic, when the world started to rumble below, even from the clouds, we could hear the land crack and shake. We just settled where we are now. I thought the northern coast would be more peaceful than Janthir. Iskarn and Dagda raced to the Bastion Celestial, but it was already too late. Whatever surge of magic that erupted from the death of the Elder Mother crippled our magic. The beacons in the spire and the tower. Who knows what else shattered in the broken corners, broken corners of the world. There was no hope of repairing them on time, not before. It didn't take long for the cryptids to catch on as soon as the spire folded. So, this is kind of talking about pretty much the end of Dragons. Suwan gets killed, right? And it's like in that moment between like Oreen taking over as the one elder dragon and the death of the elder mother Suwan, it kind of, there's this disruption in magic globally across the entire planet, and it shakes this magical city that they have. I think there's some kind of interesting idea. So I think they've retaken the tower since the first attack. But I think there is something, I don't think that the tower, I don't think they're talking about the tower here that moved. I think Omnitas disconnected from the tower, because again, the tower is not connected directly to Omnitas, right? You could, I guess they could like have it move together with it, but it's its own thing, because it's been hovering over Garenhof forever, right? And like for like a long time, at least 200, or at least since the game, since Guild Wars 2 started, and it was hanging further up the coast in Guild Wars 1. So hasn't moved, in between that, we don't know, but it was always south of Kryta when we saw it, and then all of a sudden it gets moved right when we enter Secrets of the Obscure. So I don't think that note talks about the tower moving, but just Omnitas moving, because Omnitas, is not connected to the tower. So I feel like that was sitting above Janthir, and they moved it to the Horn of Maguma, which isn't that far when you think about it, okay? Because when you look at it, okay, so if let's say this is where Omnitas was sitting, or even, further up here or whatever, they only moved it to over here, okay? And it has these, all these islands are disconnected from each other, but I guess they move it as one unit. Yeah, and I just, and I think the tower is just kind of disconnected. We do know that the tower itself does have a mind of its own, kind of. It's like almost like a sentient being. So we do know that, but it was sitting for a long time. It was sitting down here, right? This is the original tower location, and in Guild Wars 1, it was sitting right over here, actually. Like right in this area where we can't actually go to in Guild Wars 2. So I don't think they were talking about the Wizard's Tower movement. I think it was Omnitas that moved, but it's still strange. Like, why was it sitting above Janthir? We also know that Mabon at some point did go to Janthir to activate some kind of barrier or something like that. It does talk about that somewhere. I don't know if I have it. I don't think I have it pulled up. I can probably find it for you guys. Because if we go here, and then there's Mabon, and oh, this hasn't been updated. Yeah, this hasn't been updated since Secrets of the Obscure. But there is at some point, and you guys can correct me, I'm not exactly sure. But there is a point where he talks about the beacons. The beacons are also very interesting. I don't know if we're gonna hear more about the beacons, but they do talk about, there's some kind of collection or something where it talks about how he goes back, Mabon goes back before the events of Secrets of the Obscure, and I think it's after the events of the Lonely Tower. So when the Cryptas attacked however long ago, when Akeem and Vass were killed, but he goes back to Janthir to activate some kind of barrier or some kind of force field or something like that. So there seems to be something that's deterring people to actually go to Janthir. There seems to be some kind of mechanism or kind of structure or some kind of magical barrier or something that's kind of maybe keeping people from getting in and out. So are we going to be able to go in there? Like we don't really know what's going to happen, right? We don't really know where the story is going to go. But yeah, I have a feeling we're going to find out very soon. Pretty much, and I think this is pretty much all the things I wanted to talk about. I know this is a lot. This is a very long video, so thank you for anyone that's stuck with me for this long. But yeah, I just think, you know, and again, there's a lot of stuff I left out. There's so many little details, and that's what I'm kind of talking about. Like, it's very hard to draw conclusive, like, you know, opinions and theories on things when you have all of these different things that are all over the place. Yeah, there was also this detail right here. So during season 3, Minister Katakos was revealed to be the Confessor of the White Mantle, and apparently he had appeared to have retreated to the Isles of Janthir, and Kanak was pursuing him, but then he returned to Kryta when the Siege of Divinity's Reach during the Lake Doric storyline happened. So did he actually go to the Isles of Janthir? Why did he go to the Isles of Janthir? Like, what is there? What is this whole culture of Janthir where we know nothing about, and why do people keep going back? Like, Saul D'Alessio went to the Isles of Janthir to get the Eye of Janthir, and Katakos went to the Isles of Janthir, but then came back and seemingly nothing. Did he drink from the golden lake? Did that do something to him? Does that make you powerful, right? Is it when you take the vow as the warden and you have to take a chalice of that delicious golden water and you drink it down and it makes you more powerful or something? Is it like, would it almost be considered like how to become a wizard of the wizard's court you have to ascend? Is this almost like an ascension for the warden, where you, when you take the role of warden, you take this vow, but you also at the same time have to take a swig of that golden water? Like, we don't know, you know. It's so weird. They're talking about at some point the Astral Ward wrote about how there's non-cryptus activity near the Isle of Janthir. So now we have Isles of Janthir, we have Isles of Janthir, which both of them are used in game and in numerous collections and blah 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 blah, right? Because right here it even says like Isles of Janthir, but then they talk about the Isle of Janthir. So is the Isles of Janthir the collective, and one is particularly called the Isle of Janthir? Because we also have Janthir Wilds as the expansion name. So Janthir Wilds, like, is that, what does that include? Is that all of the islands, or is that just like a part of it, right? Because we talk about the delta, you know, when we look at the maps, like, are the wilds like all of these areas up here, or like is it this side over here, or is this including like the delta? Is this like the Janthir Wilds and then we go to Janthir just being up here or something, right? We don't know. The naming is interesting. There's a lot of weird things. During the Astral Ward's excursion to Nios, the pack commander discovered that the Heart of the Obscure, an arcane artifact created by Waiting Sorrow of the Wizard's Court, could make a written language. Yeah, so we just talked about that. So, but yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, I feel like I'm dragging on, and the music in the background, by the way, is just me hanging out in the Wizard's Tower. I was kind of, I was maybe gonna go in game with you guys and kind of show you guys some stuff, but there wasn't really any need for me to do that. I can kind of maybe at the end here block this, and then we can go into the tower, and I can kind of, yeah. So as you can see, the map ends here, right? And it's like there's a lot more up there, right? But we have Janthir Bay, so I have a feeling that probably we're gonna get a map here, and I'm gonna post like I think north of Divinity's Reach, like right here, and I think the this is gonna be the most northern part. I don't think ArenaNet is gonna touch water. So they're going to probably try to avoid that. So it's probably going to be here, and then we're going to jump to like something up here. I don't know if they're going to extend this map. I know this map does extend, but I don't think they want to make it any bigger because we already have to scroll so far down to get to Cantha. So I don't think they want to extend that. I think we're going to get a map here, guys. And I think maybe we're going to get like another map, like, or maybe we're going to get a map here and then a map here, and then map 3 is going to be here. if we're gonna get 3 maps, right? Are we gonna get 4 maps? You know, I mean, I'm drawing huge maps again. I mean, Queensdale is only like this big, right? So if we did, you know, or you could have like this, right? If we're doing the delta, and it's like, okay, where are we gonna go from there? Because the bastion is over here. It's like, are we gonna have another one here? Are we even gonna go? Like, we're clearly gonna go up here, right? I feel like. So, I don't know. There's kind of like those types of things. Again, there's not much that we know, but I kind of wanted to give you guys my thoughts before. I have a feeling that probably coming Tuesday we're gonna get, I don't think a trailer, maybe a teaser. I'm thinking maybe the blog post might have like a picture on the bottom again, maybe giving us some vague stuff on Twitter or something. I'm not sure, but it's just very interesting to theorize, right? I'm always all about making theories and kind of looking at the evidence of the things that we've seen that we can do, that blah, 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 right? And kind of building this thing. So I kind of wanted to dump all of this info on you guys. Let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think about, like, are we gonna see a huge city of the Mersad? Who are these Janthirians? Do you think the Golden Lake is gonna be very interesting? How does it all connect? What are the maps looking like? What are your expectations? You know, even if you guys want to talk about like what else you guys want to see for the expansion, like, are we gonna get new weapons for everyone? Are we gonna get like different skills? Are we gonna get underwater weapons on land? Like, what are some of the things that you would like to see for the expansion? So yeah, I think I've talked everyone's ear off for more than long enough, so I'm gonna ended here. Thank you everyone for watching. I appreciate it. If you guys like theorizing, hanging out, talking, I do stream on the live tab. You know, I on my channel here on YouTube. I try to do 2 to 3 times a week usually is what I go, and we do interesting things. I'm doing a lot of Guild Wars 1 stuff right now, so if you guys want to see Guild Wars 1 stuff, make sure you check that out. And we'll talk heavily about all the things coming because I'm very excited. I know that we're coming, just for those of you guys that are still with me that are maybe a little upset. I'm upset about Secrets of the Obscure as well, specifically the Nio stuff. The initial stuff, not so much. The Nio stuff I am very disappointed in because I thought it was going to be a lot more interesting than it ended up being. But just, you know, it's... I hope that, you know, we can find some kind of... I don't want people leaving. I kind of posted about it on Twitter. A lot of people are kind of talking about, I'm quitting the game because Arena has been pissing me off, and it hurts to see that. I hope those people will come back at some point, maybe when they decide, like, you know, the content is worth their time, which is, you know, it's not, and it's it kind of, what I just said kind of carries a little bit of a negative connotation, like, you know, if they can stoop to our level, but it's not like that, because, you know, it's obviously time is money, and not everyone has time to invest in a lot of different games, so you kind of have to pick and choose what you're going to invest your time into, and a lot of people just think it's not worth it anymore, and that's a shame. But I hope that some of these people will come back to check out Janthir Wilds, or whatever it's going to be called, and hang about, and maybe just watch some more of my videos. You know, if you guys want to see some more stuff, I do have a bunch of theories. I do shorts every so often, so make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. And if you guys like hanging out and chatting with me during live streams, make sure that you hit the bell and get notified. Like I said, 2 to 3 times a week I go live. You can watch my old streams on the live tab, but we also have, if you want to become a member, we do have some really cool owl emojis. So you can use those and support the channel if you're looking to do that. So I always appreciate that. But yeah, that's going to be it from me for today. I really appreciate you guys. I hope you guys are looking forward to this next expansion as much as I am. And yeah, and we will see you guys. I will be streaming probably later on tonight. Because I'll be releasing this video shortly. But yeah, I'll see you guys later on tonight. So bye, guys.